Welcome to KSOK Uncensored. Tonight's guest is a fellow Oregonian who bravely defied the tyrannical government's lockdowns and mandates by keeping her business open throughout the pandemic. This bold decision caused from a community to go from absolutely loving this woman to her being on the receiving end of a lot of hate. Despite receiving 6 OSHA complaints, Jen kept her doors open and kept plugging along because she is a believer in Jesus Christ and she fears God, not man. Come on in, Jen.
Hey, Kristen. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm so happy you're here. You're amazing, by the way. I was reading not only your story from your press packet, but I went on your website and was reading all about your story. And a few times I was brought to tears, not full on, but welling up because your story is very emotional and powerful at the same time. So I'm absolutely honored to have you on here with me.
Thank you. I'm honored too. I love talking with someone that's from Oregon.
Yes, yes. It's funny. I talk about this a lot. A lot of people, there's freedom fighters and people that do what I do, and a lot of them are in red states, and they have absolutely no idea what the true battle is for a blue state conservative, especially a Christian conservative living in a blue state. It's definitely different. You're behind enemy lines, and it just can't be replicated in a red state. So I'm happy
That's
also
true.
to be speaking to someone who understands the political climate that we are living in. And wow, okay, so I want to, on top of just thanking you for being here, there's so much I want to dive into. I want to just introduce you. You are the founder and owner of Beloved Cheesecakes. This is in Silverton, Oregon. And is that
Yes.
pretty close to, would you say, Salem?
Yeah. I mean, we're probably about 20 minutes, 25 minutes away from Salem.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. So not too far from Portland, really, and Salem, for those who aren't aware, capital of Oregon. And so quite liberal in that area as well, even though there are rural areas surrounding it. Salem, okay, so I want to talk about this because this is interesting. So Silverton, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of the detail on this, but this is a fun fact. Okay, so Silverton elected the very first openly trans mayor who did he did later die of, or she died of prostate cancer. But that gives you an idea of the political climate in this area. So I thought that was interesting when I was doing my research. So I can completely see how you went from being this loved figure in the community to when you made a decision to go against what the government was telling you to do, and you were brought up faith, right, as part of the deciding factor. Everyone turns
Yeah.
on you. So talk to us about
Uh,
that.
well, I just want to add, so with our transgender mayor that we had, I just want to clear this. Is actually he was pretty phenomenal. I wish he would have still been our mayor when all this happened, because he was, even though he was trans, he still want to identify as he. I mean, this is years ago that he came out this way or whatnot, but he was fiscally conservative. You know, he was a businessman, and COVID took him down too, and it's really sad. And he ended up dying with prostate cancer. Um, but really a great man. Whatever, why he did or whatever he did, what he did and why, I don't know. But he still was married to his high school sweetheart. I do a lot of business with her, and they just were great business people for sure.
That's incredible. So do you feel like, and I believe you do because you just touched on that though, but if he was the mayor throughout this, you think he would have stood up to the tyrannical decisions that were being made at a state level?
I think he would have definitely been more pro business, and I don't think he would have allowed the hatred that happened here. Or I think he would have done whatever in his power to keep businesses going and be behind them and let them make their own choice. I mean, that really is, look at what he was. He dressed as a woman. And so he felt like free to express himself. And I really believe that was his thought patterns, is you're free to express yourself. And so I really do believe that he would have been not joining in of the hate or trying to close a business down or ratting in a business or anything like that. the mayor that we had just didn't do anything. You know, he was just they care about the social status. They care about their
Right.
name and they want to be liked and all of that, you know.
Right, right. A foot soldier really is what I like to call them.
Yeah. Yes.
They just do what they're told. Okay. No, I
Yes.
appreciate you clearing that up because that is important. I know that there's sites out there with all of the grooming happening today, and I promise we will tie this back to the original story, but it is interesting to go into because with all the grooming happening today, there are folks from the LGBTQ community that are speaking out and saying we don't agree with this. And there's
Yes.
even gays against groomers. That's a huge, huge group of
Mhm.
folks that speak out online. And so it is important to remind people, and myself included, that not everybody in that group would have just foot soldiered along with the tyrannical mandates. So I
Yeah, that's
appreciate
right.
that. I
No,
appreciate
it's so
that.
true. I have several friends who are in the LBG community. They're not in that trans queer community, and they are very much conservative on their beliefs and don't think about pushing this agenda. And yeah, I mean, they go to freedom rallies with us. It's pretty awesome.
That is incredible. That really is, and that is refreshing to hear
Yes.
actually. So thank you for sharing that with us. I want to rewind a little bit. So I didn't meet you personally, but I was at the Reawaken tour, Clay Clark's Reawaken tour in April
Yes.
in Salem. So I
Okay.
was there and I ate some of your cheesecake and it was amazing. Seriously. Here's what's funny. I was literally sitting, there were like, I didn't want to be in the area the entire time. So I was kind of outside the tent and I was sitting there eating the cheesecake. I don't remember what it was, maybe Oreo, but I was eating it. And that was the very first time I was recognized by somebody. They walked by and they're like, that looks good. And I'm like, it is. And she goes, your voice sounds familiar. I know you. So here I am, like wolfing down your cheesecake. And I was
Oh,
recognized
that's
for the very first time from a listener. But that was really cool. So that was incredible to see you at that event. That had to have been a successful event for you guys.
Definitely unplanned. You know, we were just being vendors there, and I was getting a lot of hate on my Instagram that morning of other businesses in Salem. Boycott Beloved Cheesecake. She's an insurrectionist, a white supremacist, you know. And to be honest, I didn't even know who Clay Clark was. I just knew that my church was the one that hosted this at the Volcano Stadium. Volcano Stadium is a part of Freedom Business Fellowship, and so we're, you know, all tied in. I get a chance to be a vendor there. And then I have this hate. And so I saw people taking pictures with this gentleman. And I was like, well, he's got to be someone big. And I went up to him and found out it was Clay. And I said, hey, would you take a picture with me so I can put it on my social media and say, now really boycott Beloved Cheesecakes? And it was a whirlwind. I mean, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. Beloved Cheesecakes belongs to God. It's beloved cheesecakes, or I'm his beloved, he is mine. And so it's 100% his business. And then, you know, next thing I know, I'm under the tent and he's telling this gentleman, hey, get her contact information. I want her to serve cheesecake to Eric Trump today at 4 o'clock. And I'm just like, wait, what? You know, and I didn't even have a whole cheesecake there. I just had slices. So I send my son back to Silverton to go get a cheesecake. It takes him 2.5 hours to get back because of the traffic. He gets back within a half an hour. I get a text from that gentleman, and he said, hey, it's Dr. Judy Mikovits' birthday. Can you bring a cheesecake out? And I'm like, I only have one cheesecake. So I know who Dr. Judy is. At that time, I couldn't have picked Eric Trump out in the, you know, crowd at all. Just haven't paid attention, but I knew who Dr. Judy was, and so I was like, oh my gosh! And I thought it was just going to be in the green room. Here it is. They take me up on stage. They have me present it to her on stage, and I am just blown away. And yeah, it was just crazy. The next day, I brought 2 cheesecakes in case an opportunity to present itself. And God just opened the door, and I'm serving General Flynn and Clay Clark cheesecake. And it was a very, very successful event for us and unplanned.
That's the best. Some of the best successes are, where you don't
Yeah.
have every detail planned out. It falls into place. Everywhere I was looking, people had cheesecake, and you could hear the containers opening and closing. So yeah, I had this. So I was like, everyone had your cheesecake. I'm not even kidding. There were hundreds and hundreds of people there. So that was
Yes.
really exciting. So when I heard you were going to be my guest, I was like, wait, I have some ties here. So that's fantastic. And I want to back up here. So I want to back up to your story. And it's 2014. You've escaped a domestic violence marriage. You're a single mom of 3 boys at that time.
Yep.
You've received a flat of blackberries through a food share program.
Mhm.
And you're like, what am I going to do with a flat of blackberries? So you decide to make a cheesecake for your son's teacher around Christmas time. And the rest is history. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, I had never made a blackberry cheesecake before, and so I made one, not knowing if it was done or how it tasted. I took it to the school, and then the day after, the secretary asked me, "Jen, where did you get your cheesecake?" And I said, "I made it." And she was like, "Get out of here! It was the best cheesecake ever." And then I was like, "Okay, I'll make cheesecakes for Christmas this year," and I was on the EBT card at the time, so it was helpful, and I was able to buy the ingredients that way. And I gave them as gifts. And then I had 3 people contact me after Christmas if they could buy a cheesecake for me for New Year's. And I was like, "You want to buy a cheesecake from me?" I just didn't feel right about it. And it really just became word of mouth. And I went to school for social work. I went to Portland State, and throughout schooling, I'd bring cheesecakes at the end of terms to celebrate or for a birthday or something. And everyone's like, "Jen, you need to open up a shop." And I was like, never. I did not want to be self employed. So God had different plans, obviously.
And so someone opened up like a fund, like a program where you could do some, I don't know if it was like a crowd sharing type thing, but where crowdfunding,
A
sorry, forgot my
Kickstarter.
term here,
Yeah.
crowdfunding. And so you were able to get the funds. And then as your story read, things just started falling into place, like kitchen equipment that you needed. You were able to go and source furniture pretty inexpensively, and things just were
Yes.
happening.
Oh,
That's
everything was falling into place. It was remarkable. I remember it was, I think, December of 2018. Yeah, because I opened in 19. And I was just browsing on Craigslist, and I wasn't even sure about opening a business. This is when my mind started like, oh, maybe. And then I found this coffee shop out in Gresham that was going under. And so I went out there and I got all of this equipment, display case, countertops, tables, dishwasher, for $2,500. I mean, it was incredible. And so I was like, okay, Lord, you must be opening the store. And it just kept rolling. Like you said, I had the Kickstarter. The whole community, this community really did love me and my boys, and they rallied behind us. And then when I took the stance I did, it changed. But I see people coming back in. I haven't had any apologies or anything, but I've had people come back in, and I take that as, okay, you're at least supporting us again. So that's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Gosh, I was like mesmerized by the footage Juan was just showing, because you do cheesecake pops too, right?
Yeah,
Like
we
the
do cheesecake
oh my
pops,
gosh.
cheesecake bites, and we were in, I think, 7 or 8 different restaurants now. It's growing weekly. The
Wow.
Portland Spirit carries our cheesecake now, so that's amazing. Yep, that's a
That
pop right
is
there.
oh my gosh, that looks so good, seriously. Cheesecake is my favorite. I'm not a huge I'm sure you hear this all the time. I'm not a huge cake person,
Yes.
but cheesecake, that's a different situation. So, yes, I'm like drooling over here. That's amazing. So, all right, so things are just falling into place, and that's gotta be an incredible feeling, especially after you're like, I don't want to be a business owner. I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't want to work for myself ever. And here I am. But
Right.
same thing. I go ahead. I love this.
Um, yeah, no, I things are falling into place. I'm opening a second location in the end of this month, so March, yeah, hopefully by the beginning of April in Albany. And, we're shipping nationally now all over the place. Beloved Cheesecakes is 100% God's business, and my dream is to build the kingdom of God. I mean, that's all this is about. And being able to supply jobs, give a living wage to employees, and to give back to the kingdom. And that's my dream. And God's given me a platform. We are in Oregon, like you said, and we do have a battle here that none of the red states really understand. And so we're pretty strong. I'm not saying that the red states aren't strong, but we have to work out every single day. We have to work out our muscles every single day here. And it's a fight. My husband was just reminding me this morning. He's like, yeah, think about it. We're at any moment, OSHA could come in because of the bureaucrats and say, you have to put a mask on, just out of nowhere. No doctor saying that you have to, but Oregon passed a law for that to happen.
Right, right. It is true. And when you say like the working out reference, I feel like that just when the mask mandates were in place and when they were trying to put through the vax mandates for workers statewide, it's like putting on armor every single morning.
Yes.
Different for you because you're literally retail, customer facing. Anyone can come right in and tell you what they think. But
Yes.
you are putting armor on when you're in the state of Oregon, Washington, California, and you're a conservative Christian especially. You are armoring up every single day and you have to stay strong. And it's mentally exhausting, but it feels really good to know you didn't fall for the nonsense. So, okay, I want to back up again because I really want to try to understand what you experienced. So we're going, things roll out in March. COVID comes out in March. The pandemic hits. This is March 2020. And for about 3 months, you're following suit. You're like, okay, I'm going to close my doors. I'm going to do some orders, right? And special orders and not have that retail aspect open. And then in June, you're like, no, forget this. I need to provide for my family. We're going to reopen our doors. We're not following these tyrannical mandates. And what was it like right then in June when you made this decision?
Well, it was a little bit crazy because it was right after the George Floyd thing, so we had been doing special orders the whole time throughout the lockdown, just not having the public come in and sit. But it was right after the George Floyd event, and that it was interesting here in my town because if you didn't put Black Lives Matter in your window, then you're automatically considered a racist, And so I was not liked from right then, because I didn't put Black Lives Matter in the window. But I just kept going and doing what I had to do. And there were definitely those supporters that appreciated my stance. I knew the mask mandate was coming. I knew it. I remember going to a store and they had the plexiglass up. And I said, how much do you want to bet that this will never come down? And he's like, oh, no, it'll come down. I was like, no, I can bet you a lot of money on this. It won't come down. And sure enough, that store still has the plexiglass up, and
Right.
we never
What a
did any of
joke.
that. We never had the arrows.
Yeah, the little stand here. People still do that. I'm in Happy Valley. People still do that at the Fred Meyer down the way. The other day, I was like, this guy was so far from the next client or customer. I was like, are you
Yeah.
in this line? I literally didn't know if he was even in the same line. He's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he moved
Yes.
up. He was like a whole person away from this guy. So, people are so captured. And to your point, I don't think a lot of these folks will ever be able to go back to free
No.
thinking post 2020. So you're
No.
receiving a lot of hate. How was business struggling, let's say from June of 2020 to year end?
Yeah, so I was really slow, obviously. It was really slow. I had no employees. It was just literally me and my boys. And then August, we had the fires that came. And so then we had to evacuate. So then, I had to close my doors again for that. And I was just like, God, what is the point of this? This is your shop. You wanted this. I didn't want this headache. I didn't want to have my own business. And now I'm having to shut my doors again And we actually went from Silverton into Westland area to evacuate. And when I came back, it was still so smoky, and I kept my doors closed because no one's out and about with it being smoky. And I was just telling God, I'm done. I am done. I cannot do this anymore. And my therapy for myself, it's kind of cheesy, but I'm a huge frugal nut junkie and I love garage sales. But at that time, there's no garage sales. So my second place that I go to is Facebook Marketplace. And I found this really cool little cat box that this lady made. And I went to go pick it up from her in Tualatin. That was a Wednesday night. And then Thursday, I went to meet her. And we ended up talking. Her husband is a Portland police officer, and they were moving because Antifa had given all the city had given Antifa all the police officers' addresses. So they were being harassed, and so they were moving out of state. And it was just a really amazing God conversation. And she said, "Hey, I really think that you're a divine appointment. I was talking to a gentleman this morning, and he was asking if I knew any small businesses that were struggling. And she said, I think you're it. Can I give him your name and number?" And I was like, sure. I have no idea who this is or what it's about. And next thing I know, I have a conversation with this gentleman from Florida on a Saturday. And then that following Tuesday in September, Kirk Cameron and Pastor Rob McCoy are in my shop, and I'm doing an interview with them. And and then in October, Pastor Rob's church loved our story so much and loved my boys and I. They flew us down to California. They wanted the church congregation to meet us. And so I give a lot of credit for keeping our doors open to Pastor Rob McCoy's church, because his congregants supported us through that whole time, and we were shipping cheesecakes to California, and it was just amazing. And then April 2021 came. I had an opportunity to be on Fox and Friends, which at that time I didn't even know what Fox and Friends was. And I'm on Fox and Friends, a little 3-minute interview. I was going 5 miles per hour to 500 miles per hour in less than 3 minutes. My phone was dinging and ringing. And I just had a cell phone. I didn't even have a fancy answering, different options that you push or leave messages. Oh my gosh. And I ended up shipping over 300 cheesecakes that go around. And I still have customers from that time today. So.
Oh, wow. I believe it. That the impact of being on Fox or Fox and Friends is huge. So
Yeah.
how did you line that up?
It was 100% God. You remember in April, she was shutting us down for her third time. I think we had a 2-week break where she let us be maskless or dine in. I can't remember what it was. When I say she, it's our governor.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm not doing this again. I'm just going to keep going the way that I'm going. And some gentleman got my name from 12 different people, and he contacted me and said, hey, could you be on the show to share how you're non-compliance? And I was like, okay. Like I said, I didn't even know Fox and Friends. And it's just been a whirlwind. This is God's shop, and he has plans for Beloved Cheesecakes. And I'm not quite sure exactly where it's taken me. I have dove headfirst in the political realm. Pre-COVID, I could care less about politics. Now I'm so learning as much as I can. I think both sides are completely jacked up. But of course, I'm going to align my values conservatively. And I want to, we all need to get involved. And that's the thing. I'm going to say a little quote. My pastor just said this last weekend, and it was so powerful. What the church doesn't fill, the enemy will. And so if we're not filling the school boards, if we're not infiltrating the school system or politics or whatever, the enemy has free reign. He's going to do that. And so I'm really passionate about getting people involved.
That actually gave me chills. That's amazing. I'm going to have to use that as well. It really puts
Yes.
things into perspective. And I read that you were involved. You became a precinct committee. I know in Washington State they call them precinct committee officers. In Oregon, similar.
Yes.
I want to just touch on some. I was just a campaign manager for a Washington State politician at a local level, and it's amazing how many people, conservatives, Republicans included, we focus on the national. We focus on what's going on in Washington D.C. Meanwhile, these horrendous bills are being passed right in our own state and our own cities, and
Yes.
not bills in the cities, but different things are going through in the cities that we would be appalled about, but we have no idea what's happening at a local level because
Right.
we're so focused on the nonsense in Washington state. So I appreciate you getting involved as a precinct committee officer or committee person in
Yep.
Oregon. Can you explain? I know we don't have a lot of time left, but can you briefly explain the importance of that role to people?
Yeah, well, with the precinct committee person, a PCP, I'm still learning. I've taken classes to learn what it is, and I didn't even realize I'm already doing that job because I've used my place of business as I went to school for social work, so I love resources. I love to share. I love to advocate, and so that's basically what a precinct committee person is that you're doing the groundwork in your local area. And like right now, we're looking for school board members to run, and we have 4 seats available. So, I'm out there looking and helping, and then I'm sharing with others of who we need to support and, going out and doing door knocking and things like that. But we also get to say of who's going to be, and we get to vote for in the Marion County Republicans and who's going to be in certain positions and stuff like that. So
Yes, it's a
yeah,
very important role, and people need to look into it that are watching because that's something. I worked with the PCOs in Washington State, and they would do doorbelling with me throughout the
yeah,
campaign. So they usually align with either the Democratic side or the Republican side, and they know who's in their neighborhood, who's in their precinct, and they
yeah,
know politically where they stand, and they ensure that they are voting. So that's a very
yeah.
important role. I know we have 1 minute left. I really want to touch on something that's important that you took it upon yourself to learn your constitutional rights. And real quick, why is it so important that people know the U.S. Constitution inside and out?
One phrase: if you don't know your rights, then how do you know they're being taken away?
Yes, yes, that is powerful. It's so true.
Yep,
Myself included, I didn't know the U.S.
yep.
Constitution inside and out, but in 2020, I went and bought a bunch of those little books, those little pocket books. It's not that big, folks. It's definitely something you can learn and memorize, and you should keep one in your glove box. You should keep one at your and by your front
And
door. I
if
mean,
you don't understand it, I even got children's books so I could understand it, to educate myself. So, if you can't understand it and you're like, this doesn't make sense, go back to elementary and just get the books.
yes,
I mean, I'm not
yes.
afraid to say that.
I completely appreciate that. I'm homeschooling right now and I'm learning a lot. Let's just
Yes.
say I feel like I'm in school too. No shame in that. Well, I want to thank you for everything you've done. You are a strong woman and I am completely in awe of you. I don't say that often. I can feel your strength though, and I really appreciate everything you stand for. And I look forward to meeting you in person. We're not that far away, so we need to do that.
Yes, that's
But thank
great.
you so much. How can we support you? Where can we find you?
Belovedcheesecakes.com, and you can shop on there and we can ship nationally. I am on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, Telegram, I'm building up, and Truth Social, I'm building up those platforms.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I believe Juan had the website up on the screen a little bit earlier, so we'll make sure we tag that in the show notes. But thank you so much for taking time this morning to come on KSOK Uncensored. And again, keep on doing what you're doing. I'm incredibly proud of you, and thank you for getting involved in politics at a local level also. That is equally as important.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. All right, you guys, thank you for tuning in to KSOK Uncensored. Always a great guest, and I look forward to seeing you next Thursday. Tune in. We'll see you next week.